No, it's passed right out. One degrees in context is on the negative 103.
I think I'm ready to go. Oh, it is. I'm gonna start here as soon as Wendy comes in and gives me the high sign and make sure it's being recorded. It's 5:30 now. I'd like to get started on time. We have a quorum. No, but with the quorum. Oh, Bradley's in. So to let Bradley in, do I need to? No, that's Jay. Admit. There, look, I did it without
Director Redford's
Jay.
walking in right now.
Yay. Okay, so we're ready to go.
Just in the meantime.
Can I start with that, Wendy?
Yeah, do you have a recording that are going?
Well, Zoom is recording, isn't it, Jay?
Wendy, is this recorder on?
It is being recorded to YouTube, but I would still, because you have this process where you have a voice recorder that records it, it seems like we should have an
Okay, I'd like to start on time, so let's go ahead. It's 5:31. Okay, it's 5:31, and I'd like to call the regular June board meeting for the Sandy Nez Community Special Community Service District. And so we're going to call the meeting to order now on June 16th at 5:31 p.m. on this. So with that, Director D'Ambra, do you want to lead us in the flag salute?
I'll do roll call.
Oh, okay, do roll call and then we'll do.
Director Redford.
Here.
Director Beard.
Here.
Director Jones.
Here,
Director D'Ambra.
Here.
And Director Van Pelt.
he is here, and yeah. Director Van Pelt, you can unmute yourself, or do I need to unmute him?
I unmuted myself. Thank you, Karen.
Very good. So we're going to go ahead and get started. And Director D'Ambra, can you lead us in the flag salute?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, have a seat and we shall get started. For the first thing, we are going to go around and see if the directors have any comments about any meetings they've attended or something that is of particular interest to the district. The only thing that I have going on a comment on, it's later on the agenda, but Director Redford and I continue in our ad hoc committee for the negotiations. And
I have something, it's going to take a little while. I think maybe we can push it towards the end concerning finance and the management of the Horizon project.
well, I think that will probably come up when we discuss Horizon. So very good. Okay, if there's nothing else, then I would like to go to public comments. If there's anyone here in the public that would like to comment on something that is not an agenda item tonight, this is your opportunity to comment. Do not see anyone indicating that they would like to comment now. So now let's go ahead and hit reports. First of all, our General Manager, Jose Acosta, will give us a report.
Good evening. The report has several items on there that have transpired the last couple of months. One thing I want to point out is we've advertised and solicited applications for the wastewater treatment plant operation position. We've received 3 qualified candidates at this time. We're compiling the questions for the interview, and we'll be scheduling interviews for the end of the month here and looking to get someone in there by July. I know Kevin's got hot feet and is looking forward to making that move out to Nebraska here soon. So if we get 3 qualified grade 3s, we have a couple grade 4s and a grade 3 operator who've applied. So if we get qualified people, the training should be transitional and pretty smooth for him to get out. So.
That's great news.
Received and responded to Mr. Paul Kmart from Nigro, which are our auditing firm. They've sent in their engagement letter to start the auditing process, which will allow staff to start preparing any documents and required information that's required for them to complete their audit this coming year as well. We did send out an inquiry to the property owner at the end of Horizon Drive, seeing if they're interested in allowing that to be a staging area for the project for the contractor. They responded that they are interested. So what I did at that time was turn it over to the contractors that way they can start the communication and make that agreement. The district has no obligation or no entry into this agreement either, as it's not something that we're looking at. Other than that, the other three things we will discuss tonight at the meeting.
Okay, very good. Legal counsel report from Mr. Battles.
I have just a quick report. You'll recall that when the pandemic first started in March of 2020, or when the shutdown went into effect, there was an executive order issued by the governor which changed the Brown Act rules and allowed remote meetings and allowed for a lot more flexibility for video conferencing and teleconferencing meeting, where you don't have to have anybody present within the jurisdiction. You don't have to even have a physical meeting location. You don't have to post agendas at each meeting site, et cetera, just a lot more flexibility. So that continues to be in effect, but people have been asking, well, what's going to happen at our next board meeting? The stay-at-home orders and all of the restrictions are being lifted as of June 15. So it appears that under the plan that the governor is releasing called Beyond the Blueprint, he's going to extend those Brown Act executive orders until September 30th. So you'll continue to have the same flexibility to the extent you want to use it for that period of time. There's also 3 bills pending in the legislature that would extend those same kinds of Brown Act provisions indefinitely. They just become part of the law. So there'll be greater flexibility going forward, assuming those get enacted in some form or another. But for now, it's at least until September 20 that things are going to remain the same as far as the Brown Act is concerned.
Okay.
That's all I have.
Okay, and just one quick question on that. We can continue doing as we do. It doesn't mean we have to continue using Zoom.
You don't have to continue, no.
Okay, because we like people coming in, and so
Yeah.
we'll talk about it at a future meeting.
Yes.
But
Some of the proposed legislation would require you to make Zoom attendance an option for members of the public. It's currently not required, though.
okay, very good. Well, now we will move on to the Secretary Treasurer report with Ms. Berry.
I sent you guys emails. We need to schedule ethics and sexual harassment. So I don't know if you guys want to do it via CSDA webinars on your own, or if you want to come in here and do a 4-hour training, get them both done. It's up to you guys.
Didn't we just do one?
You did, yeah. You did part of yours. You didn't do the other one. And Karen is current until December.
Yes, so but depending on when we were elected and different things.
So
We're
it's
current
Director
on
Van
par.
Pelt and Beard and Dampa.
So I don't have to do it?
You have to do one half of it,
All right.
a 2-hour session. But I can set it up through CSDA and have the lady send you guys a link to do it on your own. And you just complete the webinar on your own, or we can schedule it and come in here and you guys can do it.
Here, sounds fine with me. Whatever, you with that, Frank?
I like it here, yeah.
That's fine.
I'm fine with that also.
Do you want to do yours so everybody's on the same schedule?
Sure.
Okay,
It's fine. Just
All right.
depends on what it is. I can schedule, you know.
okay. And what about you, Director Van Pelt?
I'm indifferent. Is it my understanding that it's going to be available if we choose to do it on our own? Do we have to come in, or can we opt into doing the two 2-hour sessions around our own schedule? Do we have that option?
You can do it on your own schedule, and I can arrange it with CSDA to register you, and then they'll send you a link to the webinars. the
Okay,
on-demand.
yeah. Okay, great. I'll make my decision. I'll send you via email, what works for me.
Okay,
No,
Thank
and
you.
having that option is good. That's good. Thank you. Okay,
that's
so,
all I have.
okay, so now, the committee reports, I already said in my director's comments, but Director Redford and I continue to work on our ad hoc committee. I don't know that there were other committee meetings since the last, okay. Then we can move on to our consent agenda, which will be approving regular meeting minutes of May 19th and our special meeting minutes of June 2nd, the Finance Committee meeting minutes of May 13th. And then we've got the treasurer's report to approve disbursements and profit and loss. We all have this set in our packet, have an opportunity to review it. And if you want to quickly take a look and see if there was something you wanted added, deleted, changed, this is the time to do that.
I had one comment in that, just for the Zoom meetings, that maybe we want to put the Zoom meeting code at the very beginning of the packet for people so that they're not searching, 4 or 5 pages in to find it. But that was the only thing.
I had that same problem. I really had it at the airport. But I agree that it would be nice if people could see it because it gets lost at the back. Just a suggestion if you want to kick that around. Are there any other?
It is in the front. It's
Okay.
the first paragraph on the agenda. Do you see
Well,
that?
I see it
think
here.
it needs to be,
You want to single it out, like below the,
You did the first page of the agenda right there on the.
It is, but I think with Director Redfern, like if it's just Zoom link right here, maybe it's easier to find.
We'll call it out.
Okay, and
okay, you're right, I'm sorry.
That's okay.
I saw it, on page 4.
I mean, there's a
whatever.
lot of wording, so that's not, we can just make a Zoom link and put it right there.
I just thought it'd be easier if it had that Zoom link.
Yeah.
in the very beginning.
And are there any changes or any questions on the disbursements, the P&L statement, or any changes to the minutes? If not, I would like a motion to pass the consent items.
No, I've looked at everything. I'll make a motion to pass the consent agenda.
Okay, so we have a motion from Director Beard to pass the consent agenda. Do we have a second?
I'll make the second.
Director Deambra seconds. Wendy?
Okay, so we have a motion by Director Beard, a second by Director Deambra to approve the consent agenda as presented. We'll do a roll call vote. Director Redfern?
Aye.
Director Beard?
Aye.
Director Jones?
Aye.
Director Deambra?
Aye.
Director Van Pelt?
Aye.
Motion passes.
Okay, very good. So now we're going to move on to the action items. 8A, we are having a public hearing regarding Resolution 2104. So I will turn that over to, oh, well, actually not you. Right now, I could ask for public comments.
We need to open the public hearing.
Oh, okay, so right now at 5:43, we're going to open the public hearing on having sewer fees and charges collected on the tax rolls. So it is open now, and I am open for public comments on that. If anyone would like to comment on us collecting our fees on the tax roll.
What are we to comment on? What are the fees?
Well, the fees vary, like right now you have a different fee than I have, but whatever, like I pay a monthly sewer bill, but instead of being collected once a month as it was years ago, for the past several years, I pay the entire year on my property tax bill. It comes on just like school assessments and bonds and different things. And while I like getting a monthly bill, I like that. I understand how it's easier and more cost-effective for our agency to bill that way through the property taxes, because then we don't have to shut off, turn on, do that stuff that sometimes happens with water departments.
Like you guys have been doing for me for 20 years.
Yeah, just tacking it on there. And in theory, I can make the case, But in practice, it works out well for the agency. So this would be a time if somebody wanted to comment or protest that we are doing that, or going to vote on whether we do it, this would be the time to speak. And I don't hear any public comments. So,
But this doesn't have anything to do with Horizon Drive. This is just the normal sewer fees for everybody.
yes, exactly. This is how we collect all of our fees now.
Right.
And,
Okay.
and so we
Just
actually are
like
able
I've
to
been
collect
saying
them.
all along.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Ivy. So now, then the public hearing is closing at 5:45. And now we can move on to the resolution 2104.
Right, so this is the annual resolution to adopt, to put the sewer fees on the tax roll. And at the May 19th meeting, the board approved resolution 2103, which elected to have the sewer fees and charges collected on the tax roll and for the fiscal year 21-22, directing the preparation and filing of the report, fixing time and place for the hearing and providing the notice thereof. So tonight, we just had the public hearing. And so you guys need to
Make a
adopt
motion.
it.
Yeah, so we're looking for a motion to approve resolution 2104, providing for the collection of sewer fees and charges on the tax roll in the same manner as property taxes for the
I'll make that
2021.
motion.
Okay.
Second it.
Got a motion from Director Beard, a second from Director Redfern.
All right, so we have a motion by Director Beard, a second by Director Redford to adopt resolution 21-04, resolution of the Board of Directors of the San Diego Community Services District, overruling objections and adopting report on sewer fees and charges to be collected on the tax roll for the fiscal year 21-22. We'll do a roll call vote. Director Redfern.
Aye.
Director Beard.
Aye.
Director Jones.
Aye.
Director Gambra.
Aye.
Director Van Pelt.
Aye.
Motion passes.
Okay, and then we're going to move to action item 8B, and I'm
Excuse
opening.
me,
Yes.
excuse me just a moment. But on this, it said that you're to receive the staff report, open for public comment, close public comment, discussion, motion, and roll call votes. So did we do that part? Did we open for public comment
Yes.
under
Yes.
resolution 2104?
Yes, and
Yes.
there were not public comments, so we just explained a little bit more what the resolution was and then moved forward.
But was there, my question, I guess, is when you're voting for these fees, do the people know what these fees, was there an increase in the fees? Do people know what those fees are going to be?
Yes, what this is it's the way we legally have to do it. We discussed this in detail at a previous meeting and then brought it back for the vote this meeting. But that information is available. And we will talk about fees at length when we get to the Horizon Drive part. But whatever fees are collected are going to be collected in this manner. And we've been doing this every year, and it's just,
And we have to vote on it every year.
yeah.
Yeah, I know that, but my question is the public being made aware of the fees that you're voting on before you vote on them and get a comment? Because we don't know what those fees are.
We're not voting on fees right now. We're voting on how fees are collected. This has nothing to do with the fees except for how it's being collected.
This doesn't
Not
change.
the dollar amount.
Right.
Okay.
No, but that will get discussed, and we did discuss that also at length in the last meeting
I'm
because,
sorry. I didn't-
no, it's fine. And we send out a letter and then another notice, but it's really, yeah, it's a lot to keep up with in the public because this is not the only agency that sends you correspondence. So we try and get those numbers out to people. Yes, Jose.
So the fees and rates have already been approved by the board, adopted by the board based off of the rate study. The Prop 218 notification that was sent out was to notify the public that the fees would be changing and adopted. That notice was sent out to all residents who are customers of the CSD. Is that correct, Wendy?
Yes, and then we also included some basic information in a newsletter that we've started sending out in the last year. So we try and get the information out there, but I'm glad that folks like you pay attention and come in because it's a lot to follow. Okay, so now we are going to talk about our proposed budget. We had the budget review at our last meeting. So 8B, I will, open the public hearing at 5:50 PM and ask if there are any public comments now on our budget that was presented for fiscal year 2020, 2021. And I do not see any public comments, so I'm going to go ahead then and close the public comment period if nobody wants to comment on this item. And then we will go on to the resolution, Resolution 2105. And let staff tell me the recommendation.
So as discussed and presented to the board at last month's meeting, the budget was presented, discussed, the board made recommendations and suggestions. And the major suggestion recommendation was to change the title of the CIP project for Stadium Drive to just be inclusive of future expansion. So that was the one change that was made to the budget. We did have dialogue and discussion amongst the board members and staff regarding the budget at last month's meeting, and it was approved to bring back just making that dialogue change on the budget. So at that time, we did make that change. Are there any other questions regarding the budget from the board?
No, so, okay, at this time, yeah, I would ask for a motion.
The motion would be to adopt resolution 2105 of the board of directors of San Ynez Community Service District fixing, approving, and adopting the budget for fiscal year 21-22.
Okay, do I have a motion to adopt the budget?
I'll make the motion.
The motion is made by Director Deambra. Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Seconded by Director Beard. So Wendy,
Okay, we have a motion by Director Deambra, a second by Director Beard to approve resolution 21-05, resolution of the Board of Directors of the San Ynez Community Services District fixing, approving, and adopting the budget for fiscal year 21-22. We'll do a roll call vote. Director Redfern.
Aye.
Director Beard.
Aye.
Director Jones.
aye.
Director Deambra.
Aye.
Director Van Pelt.
Aye.
Motion passes.
Okay, now we're going to move to action item C, which is a review and approve the capacity fee study. So I'd like to receive the staff report. I believe that would be our manager, Jose Acosta, that's going to give us that.
Yes, so this evening I want to invite, let the board know we invited Mr. Clayton Tuckville to the meeting so that he can present the slides and the PowerPoint regarding the capacity fee study that was requested by the board. I'll go over the staff report and then I'll invite Mr. Tuckville to step up to the podium, go through the PowerPoint, and we'll answer any questions and have any discussion with the board and answer any questions from the public at that time as well. The cost for the study that was presented by Mr. Clayton Tuckville was for $7,500. Tonight, the board will review the draft capacity rate study, and provide directions for staff and Mr. Tuckville for any modifications and compilation of a final rate study if the board chooses to move in that direction. At the February 17, 2021 meeting, the board requested for Mr. Tuckville to complete the rate study based off of the current fees that were at $6,336.98 per equivalent residential unit. The board wanted to make sure that these fees were inclusive of all future projects and considering the current and future costs to be incurred of the City of Solvang wastewater treatment plant, reflection of the current infrastructure that we have in the district, and any future build out as well. The last review of the rate study was completed in 2016 when Clayton completed the last rate study for the capacity charge. The last review was in 2016, but the last complete, thorough, comprehensive review of the rate study was completed back in 1998.
Wow.
So since then, the rates have only increased by the construction cost index figures, which is a modest increase every year based off of what that publication puts out. Mr. Tuckville has compiled a thorough, complete draft study, and he's here tonight to present it for the board for review and discussion. So at this time, I'm going to invite Mr. Tuckville to step up discuss the slides with the board and public and provide any insight that you may have. Thank you.
Well, good evening. I'm pleased to be before the board of directors once again. You picked a nice, cool day to come up. It's been wonderful outside, but nonetheless, still pleasure to come up. The fee system capacity charges, it's a very moderately simple concept, but it gets very complicated when you actually do math. So I'll try to stay at a conceptual level so we can all understand. But if you want to get some details, I'll certainly do best to answer those questions. So Wendy, you could go to the next slide. So as we discussed, so they discussed, system capacity charges I put in here were last updated in 1998. Now, I did some extensive work with Wendy to go through some of the past resolutions to find out when we actually did some of this update type work. So while the last update was 2016, and prior to that was 2011, those two were increasing these charges by the ENR indexes, as they mentioned. That's typically a modest increase, like 2 to 3% to recognize the construction cost inflation. But to do a detailed study, you actually have to look at the value of the facilities that you're trying to set a charge on. And the last time I saw that from the resolution was 1998. So what we're doing here is taking a look at the district's fixed asset that's on the books of the district, plus the capital improvement program, because we're going to construct a lot of new facilities that's going to be booked into fixed assets, and then translate that into a charge new customer will pay to buy into the system. Okay, so the mission we're trying to accomplish here is to update those capacity charges that comply with California legislation. We're going to follow industry methodologies. This is from the American Water Works Association, the Water Environment Federation. They're typically similar in how they do this, as well as some other type publications. The idea is that new customer growth would pay for itself, and we call that growth paying for growth. So let's move on. Some of the key points here. The district has 3 projects that the board has decided they will be property specific, meaning that they're going to be, the cost of those projects will be allocated to just those people that are going to use those projects. These include the Horizon Line, Stadium Line, and West Side Extension. And as Jose mentioned, the Stadium Line, we're going to call that something else now. So pump station are not included in this study either. And that's because the cost of those facilities are collected through the annexation fee. So the district has 3 fees. They'll have the annexation fee, these capacity charges, then the project specific fee, the Horizon Line, Stadium, et cetera, that will go on to specific property. Okay, so what we're talking about here is just the capacity charge of the system, not Horizon and not annexation. Okay. Now let's take a look at how we do this. Now, there are 5 steps I labeled here, but rather than go through the details on those, when you go and put up all 5. The idea being here is that we need to identify what methodology we're going to use. And there's the buying methodology, incremental cost, or a combination of those 2. And as we have talked with staff and as the board has decided, any expansion project is going to be put on specific property. So that means everything else is just going to be a buy-in. So we're going to look at just the buy-in facilities. So somebody who connects up is going to pay a fee to buy into the existing system, not the expansion stuff. Okay, then once we do that, we need to identify the facilities that are going to be included. That includes your current system, the CIP, and also your cash reserve, because your existing people have paid in. So you got a lot of cash sitting on the books, not a lot of cash, but you have cash sitting on the books. So the new person has to make his contribution to that cash as well. So those 3 facilities, the current facilities, the CIP, and then reserve. Now, all those are up to date value except the current facilities. Some of those facilities were up to 1990, 2000, 2010, et cetera. So what we want to do is bring that value up to today's value. So we do that by using the NR construction cost index. So they were built in 1990. We look at that index that has occurred since that time, trend that value up to today's dollar, and then recognize the percentage of that is depreciated based on how it's been depreciated according to the fixed asset books. Like I said, it gets a little more complicated, but the whole idea is what's the value of facilities today, and then what capacity is it providing? That kind of sums it up. So take the facility value, divide that by the capacity provided, And then what is the capacity that a new customer is trying to get? And so we've done some math, you get $1 per equivalent residential unit. And then whatever type of customer that is, it's either 1 ERU, or he might have 2 ERUs, he might have 3 ERUs. But the idea is that if we know the dollar per ERU, you can multiply that times the multiple and get the schedule of charges, which is what we've done. Okay, so let's take a look at the next slide. Now, these are very small that are showing. Okay, you've probably seen this before. It's in the report, and it basically represents your current schedule as well. So whereas previously the charge was $6,336, I believe, at the very top line for single family, that charge now is $9,995. Now that's a pretty good increase, and like I said, this hasn't been done this way since 1998. So since '98, the district has built a lot of facilities that have been put on the books of the district, bringing those values up to today's dollar. So you're getting a boost from that. So I guess the comment would be that while we've increased the charges, at the DNR index rate about 2 or 3% a year, that wasn't enough to compensate for all the facilities you've built since 1998. Okay, so that's why there's such a change in that amount. So key takeaways from this study was new customers going to pay a fair price to buy into the system. And that's what this study is intended to do. That the capacity charges we're talking about here recognize both the wastewater flow and the strength of the new customer. And that these are one-time charges paid by new customers. They do not apply to customers currently connected to the system. These are only applying to somebody who builds a new home or changes their capacity and buys into the system. So with that, let me answer any questions that the district may have.
I have a question. I'm interested to see what the people here think. So we as a district did not do as good a job as we should have in keeping pace.
I wouldn't say it that way. I would say that the ENR index is tended to represent how costs change over time. But in this case, since it was a long time since the same methodology was done in 1998, we got behind a little bit. And so now we're trying to catch up and do it in a manner that would account for that adjustment.
I have a second question that goes with it. I'm not trying to be critical of anyone, but if I was a person that was now going to buy in, I would maybe think, wow, these people bought in at a really low rate, and now they're redoing things, and so the rate has increased in a way that might not feel fair to me.
Yeah, I guess how I would try to answer a question like that is, let's say that in 1998 it was done appropriately, and then we got to 2005, and then we applied the ENR index, and 2011 came around, and your consultant at that time modified that such that, well, it's not only will we account for flow, but we'll account for strength. And so that change was made. And then when I did it in 2016, we found that the wrong index was being applied. And so I modified it to apply the correct index. So we've made the appropriate changes to get where we need to go. It's just that this time we need to make it to recognize all the facilities that were included in the fee.
Okay, that answers my question. Does anyone else have any questions of the directors? I'm going to go to you guys. I want to hear anything here before I ask for public. Yes, Director Redfern.
Well, the system was installed before 2090 or 1990, right? But you only started in 1990?
Well, recall that I said that when the district bought facilities in 1983, I think it was, right?
Yes.
Those fees, that cost is being charged through the annexation fees. They're not included in this study. So all the facilities being accounted for, just in different places.
All right. My next question would be is what changes is, what's the dollar amount change that we're going to be making to adjust up to the correct amount right now.
I believe the current fee is $6,336.98.
98 cents.
The new charge will be $9,956.
1,900 and what?
9,956. I wish you remember what the slide.
57.7.
57%. So $3,000 increase thereabouts.
Yeah.
And when does this increase hit? Has it already, or is this going forward after?
This will increase these charges annually in April, I believe, for that ENR index. So I can't project what the future will be. We have to wait till the index comes out. Then
Any other questions or comments from the public on this topic? Okay, our general manager would like to
He
comment.
has a great point in the sense that we didn't catch him when we did our last few rate studies, but the board did ask some comprehensive questions and we had some good dialogue this last rate study that this was brought forward. So a good methodology and a good practice would be to do this every time we do a rate study, review the capacity charges as well. So that way we don't fall this far behind and have to make the changes in a dramatic manner. So I just wanted to make that comment because Clayton did review it in 2016, did what was asked in that last ordinance that was reviewed. But now when we get to the end of this rate study, we'll do another capacity case and we're not having to make these dramatic changes. And we'll move forward in that
Well,
manner.
that's what you need to do.
Yes, ma'am.
You need to get your act together,
And
so to speak.
yes, what we're doing is make those changes and move forward in a proper manner.
Yeah, because we pay for those errors or corrections.
Correct. And
in this case, these are capacity charges. They're not paid by anyone except a new customer that connects to the system. So you would not pay for that. Anybody else who's on the system
But
now,
I would if I wanted to add guest house.
if you wanted to increase, I don't know about the ADUs, whether they can pay capacity charge or not, that is up for some.
It depends on how the ADU is built.
And I would say, I have another question based on what Miss Ivy said. They are going to pay these capacity charges on Horizon Drive, correct?
Yes.
So are they going, what capacity charge are they going to enter in? The old one, the one we're currently using, or the updated one?
Can I defer that question to?
Yes.
To Rick? Rick, if we were gonna charge them a capacity charge and do an ordinance or a resolution to set the fees for Horizon Drive, could we say that they're gonna pay fees that were prior to the adoption of this capacity schedule? Or do they have to pay the capacity schedules that's adopted at the time that they enter into that agreement?
I don't see any basis for charging them the prior capacity fee. I think they pay whatever capacity fee is in effect when they decide to connect. I mean, a lot of those people may not connect for years, and there's not really a basis for grandfathering them in to an earlier capacity fee just because the project was in process when capacity fees changed.
I understand that and agree, because you can't, 10 years from now, oh no, we came in when it was back at 6,000. So that's it. I understand that. But what about anybody connecting now? Because, they can't connect. They've been wanting to connect for a long time, of the people that are connecting. I agree that the majority of people aren't going to connect. But let's say Miss Ivy is connecting as soon as she can, as soon as this pipe is in the ground. What would she need to do if she wanted to be locked into the current capacity fee? Actually make some kind of commitment to be on this pipe now, or?
Honey, I've been paying since 1995. I've been paying this district since 1995.
I know that.
All my property tax bill without any services.
Yes, and that's my question, because you weren't hooked to the sewer, even though you were in the district and you were paying for that. You didn't have the option of hooking up. And so you do now. And that's just my question. I'm not trying to open a can of worms.
I got something that worth looking at. How about we put out a little flyer, since this is Horizon specific, and it goes back a long time, that we are upping the capacity charge. Therefore, on such and such, if you sign on to hook up to the system by such and such a date, we will honor the current charge, and the new one that comes in charge after that date will be on those who hook up after that. So it gives them an option. I'm just, what's.
No, I like that, but I understand there could be some problems with it, because they have to be fair to everyone. But people that make a commitment and to do that actually,
How is that not fair to everyone? You're giving them the opportunity to plug it in. They don't want to plug in, then they pay when they hook
I'm
up.
agreeing with you.
I don't see that as being a problem.
My only suggestion would be delaying of adopting this capacity charge until the sewer line is placed on Horizon Drive and we get those first few connections. And then we revisit this and adopt this resolution. Because, like, as Rick mentioned, once you adopt this, which would be next month, that line's not in the ground yet. Those people can't connect. Once they make that connection, they would have to pay this fee that we're adopting on this capacity.
I think that's a smart solution.
That's an option for the board to consider.
Yeah, I think that's a fair solution to at least give the people who want to connect now, let them be able to connect under this fee. The ones that want to do it a year or 2 years from now, they're going to have to pay the higher rate.
I will say we've done the study. It's completed. If we bring it back in 6 months, 7 months, there may be a small review of the study that has to be completed and represented, but the fee shouldn't jump up.
Right.
But at that time, we have the pipe in the line. The customers at Horizon who connect at the time would pay the current fee of $6,000 versus the $10,000. Am I correct in that saying that? Like,
Yeah.
Yeah, you could just defer the adoption of the increase, or you could approve the increase at your meeting next week with an effective date of next January or something like that. And then you notify the people on Horizon that the rates are going up effective in January, and therefore they might want to connect sooner rather than later.
It may
I don't think it's
incentivize some
probably
people, but
And we can include that in our monthly newsletter that we send out to the Horizon Drive customers, that this is what the board has adopted. If you connect by this date, this is the fee you pay in capacity fees. If you connect after this date, this is the fee that you're looking at connecting. And like you said, it could incentivize.
yeah, our new capacity fee goes in effect this date. And so, yeah, I like that if other people do.
Is there a way to find out the depth where the main line passes in front of the house, the depth of the line at that point and the depth of the at the house where that is, so you know how much you have to dig?
There is absolutely a way. I don't know how to do it.
So what I will say is the line in the street will vary in depth. The line coming to your property will surface at the property line. So your line will surface right there at the property line, that you can make the connection right there. Depending on how deep you need a dig to make the connection out to your property, this varies on the properties. But they all will surface at the property line, and you'll have your connection point at that area.
Gary would like to ask a question.
Oh, he's on the screen. Yes, Gary, go ahead.
Maybe I missed something in the past meetings. So in addition to having to pay for the pipe, which I believe is around 58,000, there's also a connection fee plus our
Yes.
lateral that we pay for on our own, and then a monthly, which,
Correct.
if I believe correctly, you said goes on a property tax.
I didn't hear that last part.
The monthly fee goes on the property taxes, is that correct?
The service charges go on the property tax bill.
Oh, yes, yes, the service charges on the tax bill, but everyone who hooks up, in addition to paying their own costs on their property, whatever it costs to abandon their septic and to get to the, where they tap into sewer, that is on the homeowner. And in addition, everyone who hooks up to sewer, residential homes pay a 6,000 and something capacity charge. And right now, we are going to take that to almost 10,000 a month.
10,000, not a month.
Oh, excuse me, a one-time charge,
Yeah.
10,000
But was
per
that
house,
included
yes.
in the 59,000 that we had?
No, it was not.
That's the main charge, your portion of the lateral in front of your house.
Correct. That, or for the mainline project,
Yeah.
that's your portion. And on top of that, there was also presented that you had to pay your capacity fee, your annex fee, and that was broken down into your monthly payment of, I want to say $435 a month.
Wait a minute, I've already paid annexation fees.
I'm sorry?
I've already paid annexation fees back in the 90s.
The annexation fee is per property, so
I
when
know
you go
that.
to connect, we
I
will
know that.
verify that.
I shouldn't have any annexation fees, and I've been paying for service and never received it. So, I just don't know how you want to deal with me.
Well, as Wendy said, we will review each individual connection
You know,
and see who's.
Yeah, but what you're saying is in addition to the sewer coming down the street,
Yes,
we have an additional capacity fee tacked on top of that.
yes,
Is that
ma'am.
true?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
And I believe that's a universal truth with the sewer. Yes,
But is that going to be that we pay that, or is that going to be included on the tax bill?
That, yes, that would be included on the tax bill. Yes.
So it's a question of whether it's 6,000 or 10,000.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
Besides, the only thing you're gonna have out of pocket would be the lateral from shutting down your septic, filling it, and bringing it out the main line
And we
to
would
the
just
stub.
pay that out of our pocket.
Yeah, everything else is through the finance, is it not?
Correct.
yes. Does anyone else have anything? And Gary, did that answer your question?
It did answer my question, but it leads me to another question, what Mr. Deamber just mentioned, is that the cost for the pipeline itself is on a loan. Is it possible to pay that off as a one-time fee? If I
Oh,
don't
you
wanna
can
take-
pay the whole
If I don't want to
thing.
take your loan.
Yes.
Yes, anyone who wants to just pay that money for their share of the pipe can, but because it's such a large amount of money, I think many people will choose to finance it, but I could be wrong. And the benefit of just paying it up front, if somebody wanted to pay the cost of the pipe up front, would just be that they avoid the interest.
Correct.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Anything else?
Not yet.
Okay, so on this, we're looking for direction from the board to staff, and we talked about when we implement this, what does staff need?
The staff would need direction on allowing or directing Director, Mr. Clayton Tuckfield to complete a final rate study for presentation. And when that's presented, the board would make a motion to defer adoption of it or bring this back for a later adoption date. Am I correct, sir?
Yeah, you have, if you're going to adopt an ordinance increasing your capacity charges, you'd have to have a public hearing and a notice of that public hearing. You could do that at your next meeting and then formally adopt the increased capacity charges with the deferred effective date. That would be an option, or you could just approve the capacity study right now without adopting an ordinance to increase the fees and wait to do that down the road.
That appeals to me. I mean, tonight we could get that part done, but we are approving the capacity study.
The finalization of it.
Yes.
I think you need to handle this surgically if you're gonna go out and broadcast it via a flyer, that it applies only to new customers in large caps, because we had last meeting, a couple of people were very upset, and rightfully so, about cost. And if they saw this, you know, I could see them short circuiting real quick. I think it's good communications to make people understand it's specific to current, future hookups. It doesn't apply to the people who are currently on the system. That way we potentially reduce a lot of ill will.
We are talking about residential, but I'm assuming that everything is going up.
Any
Yes, so somebody listening tonight or getting this information that isn't here, that has a hotel or has a restaurant, their fees are also going to go up. This is just going to be a different number. If they're new. If they have not connected yet, yeah, because, you know, we've got a lot of new stuff coming to the valley. So just wanted to make sure that we weren't having our residential customers carry all the burden, that everybody is equally increased.
Can I make a proposal to the board?
We would love to hear from you.
I would like for you to seriously consider, there was 80% of the residents on Horizon Drive that agreed to this project a long time ago. What, year and a half ago? We did that study, we did that, and then COVID came along and everything got interrupted, got put to the back burner. Like I said, I've been up here since 1995. I was annexed, I started paying. So I don't think there's any question as to where the people are on this subject. They're all on board with you with the sewer. So I would like to propose that you guys really consider holding that cap fee, because that was strictly based on studies and resolutions and formulas and this and that. You know, that it's increased from 6,000 to 10,000. You know, that's a big increase. That's a big increase. So I think you really need, for goodwill of the community, I think you need to really think about this and be really fair to us on Horizon Drive. I really do. There's 80% of the homes signed on for this deal.
We're talking about 18 homes, and we're talking about 780 homes, and we're trying to be fair to everybody. If we don't increase the fees, it's not
Oh,
fair.
no, I'm not
It's-
saying
wait,
not
wait, wait.
increase the fee.
I understand, but I think we are being fair by delaying that increase, giving people on Horizon a chance to get in under those fee increases.
As long as we can get in under the fee increase.
That's what
What
we're
what
trying
we're
to do.
talking about right now is holding it off, giving you guys a chance to get, get in with the original, or not the original, but the current fee, and not incur the extra $4,000.
Well, honey, we've been in all along.
Well, this board, I want to tell you, has been working really hard
I
trying
know
to
you
get
have,
the
and
prices
I'm very
down,
thankful for you.
and we're
I
trying to keep
thank
the
God every
prices down.
day for this board. I really do.
But we're on your side, and
We have been pushing forward full steam ahead with this to get this to this point.
most of this board's only been here, 3 years or 4 years tops. We're all working, trying to get things moving and done.
Yeah.
I remember your situation when I was an employee here. Yeah, a long time
Been
ago.
a long
so,
time, baby.
And it is a shame that it's taken till now because everything is so much more expensive. But I think it's an elegant solution that we came up with to get this done, but to not, we haven't voted on this yet, but the way, what I'm hearing from everybody is we are gonna hold off on this until you all have an opportunity to get in at this. And then some people may choose not to, but
Well, that's my problem. You keep saying holding off until we get an opportunity to get in on this. Are we not in on this already?
not until we get money, and we're not taking money till you've got your pipe. I guess people could sign up now if they wanted. I don't know. That's a question.
Well, the project hasn't been completed, so
Okay.
final
Right.
project costs would have to be evaluated.
Right, yeah. We have to get the project completed, the pipe in the ground,
Yeah.
so that you can hook up. So we're gonna hold off doing this increase for X number of months after, to give you all a chance to hook up at the current fee.
Okay, I'm on board. Thank you.
Yeah. We're trying to be as fair as possible with it.
And we're trying to move as fast as possible, but it's a slow go, but I definitely see light at the end of the tunnel.
last month's meeting, we had some quotes for services. The board thought they were too high. So we said no to all 3 bids, sent them back, said low, get the price down,
There were hidden costs that
Oh, yeah, they love to do that.
and we said, no, we want to bid with complete bid, not with hidden
Well,
costs.
thank you for doing that.
We're
Thank you for
trying.
having the foresight to
Yeah.
do that.
right, we're trying to make this as affordable as possible. All of us were in shock at the current price of it going in.
Well,
board-
I
the
think
board is
every
trying-
American right now just wants to know the truth.
Right.
Just cut through the chase, give us the bottom line.
We
and
could have
let us
accepted the
either say
bid.
yay or nay.
We could have accepted the bid two months ago and gone ahead with it, but we didn't like the bid. And so all of us said, we didn't like spending your money for you. We opened up another meeting.
For everybody to come.
for
Because we
everybody
wanted you to
come
know and be
hear-
transparent
So
about it.
we could hear what you wanted. The board is really trying to work with you guys.
I appreciate that. Thank you.
Okay, so now at this point, what we would need a motion to direct staff.
So the board first has to decide on which option. The option would be to defer presentation for, presenting it for a hearing. And we delayed that to a certain date and asked Mr. Tuckfield to bring that back and present it at that date. Or we asked Mr. Tuckfield to bring it back next month for a hearing and then defer it at that meeting.
Make
We
it
can't-
simple. Bring it back next month and we'll sign it off with the future date. It's just less bureaucracy.
I like that too.
Me too.
Okay, so the motion would be to provide direction to Mr. Tuckfield to bring back a final capacity charge study for presentation to the board at next month's meeting with a deferral date approved by the board at that time.
In the future,
Yes.
yeah.
And that will be different than the study that was presented tonight. So to approve this, but then talk about when it goes into effect.
Correct,
is
so
an
you're
option.
approving the study that was presented tonight with the date that you guys decide on next month. Is that?
Yeah, and so the study is one thing, that just gives you the information you need to prepare and adopt an ordinance that sets forth an updated schedule of capacity charges. And so what the direction is tonight is to approve the study or find that there aren't any revisions needed to the study, that you're okay with the charges and the methodology and all of that. And then direct staff to publish notice of a public hearing and hold a public hearing at your next meeting and bring back an ordinance with the capacity charges set forth in the study for board adoption with the effective date to be determined.
Okay, but the motion is still going to be, well, are we approving the capacity study, the capacity charge study?
So
We're approving
motion is-
completion.
Motion is to provide direction to Clayton Tuckfield to present a final capacity charge study at next month's board meeting.
Okay, so I was a little confused about that. I thought we were gonna okay this, but not give a start date. So we're just gonna
No,
bring
all
him
we're saying
back.
is bring back the final study.
Okay,
And then at that meeting, what we'll do is we'll give direction to staff to bring it back at the August meeting for a hearing, or we bring it back in July, August for a hearing.
Okay, I thought I was hearing that you wanted to move forward with the adoption of an ordinance at the next
Yeah.
meeting. That's Get what it all
was.
finalized,
Yeah.
just to defer.
Okay.
But I'm not sure that I was hearing that correctly.
no, if I heard it very simply in the motion that we're looking for, it would probably be clearer to me right now. I don't know where to go with this because I'm hearing kind of two different things.
I think you could simply say that the action is to approve the capacity fee study as presented and to bring back an ordinance at the next board meeting.
With a future effective.
Yeah.
But it's not finalized, is it? You haven't actually.
No, right now it's
finished the final
draft,
language.
but if you say what it is right now is good, then I'll make it final, and I won't need to come back next month because we've already decided it's okay.
Yes, this is, he's come back tonight and presented his final presentation. Now we could send him back and tell him to make some other little changes. But right now, I don't think we're talking about whether or not the study is okay. We're talking about when we want to implement the changes. That's what I'm hearing, so.
You can't implement the changes without doing a notice of public hearing and.
I get that, but we can finalize this
Correct.
gentleman's report and let it go from being a draft to our fee
Correct.
study.
Right.
And then bring that fee study, for a public hearing before we adopt any changes.
Correct.
So what I think I'm looking for is a motion to approve, accept Mr. Tuckfield's rate study and direct staff to,
Notice a public hearing.
yes,
bring back an
to
ordinance.
notify the public on proposed fee changes. So,
Well, there
Right,
wouldn't be,
And bring back an ordinance.
yeah, there wouldn't be any changes to the study. There
No,
would
no,
be
to the
changes
fees.
to the date.
yeah, to what we pay. New,
And when we want to implement it.
Yeah.
yeah, so, yeah.
And so the ordinance can be brought back with a blank date, and at that meeting, they can implement that date.
Yeah.
Okay, so I'm looking for a motion to accept Mr. Tuckfield's rate study and direct staff to do the necessary steps to implement any changes.
I'll make the motion.
I'll second it.
Okay, I think we're clear what we're talking about
Okay, so I
now.
have a motion by Director Deambra, a second by Director Redford to approve the capacity study as presented, direct staff to notice the public hearing and bring an ordinance back to the July meeting with the effective date to be determined.
Perfect.
We'll do a roll call vote. Director Redford,
Aye.
Director Beard,
Aye.
Director Jones,
Aye.
Director Deambra,
Aye.
Director Van Pelt,
Aye.
motion passes.
Okay, very good.
Director Van Pelt, could you speak up a little bit back there?
Am I too loud? Too loud?
There's no such thing as too loud on these meetings. You are heard clearly. I like it.
All right. Sorry about that.
I
It's
think
not your fault.
It's the audio setting on our end, and we just adjusted it.
Okay, now we're going to move on to action item D, which is update on the Horizon Drive Mainline project. And I will ask our director, Jose Acosta, to give us that update.
tonight, the updates will be presented on the easement statuses, the loan application status, construction updates, and engineering services that are being provided for the project. The estimated amount for the loan through, and there's a typo in here where it says CWSRF. That is not the loan that we are reviewing this evening or have this approved by the board. That loan is through Municipal Finance Corp., which is through CSDA. And that is in the amount of $1.3 million. And the budget has also, the board has also awarded the contract to Specialty Construction Incorporated in the amount of $998,315. So first thing we'll discuss is the loan application. The term sheet was signed and returned by the staff to CSDA for approval and discussion. We've had dialogue with Municipal Finance Corp. And the gentleman's supposed to be on the meeting this evening for discussion when we get to the financing of the loan on that agenda item. So he'll be able to answer any questions as well. The term of the loan is for 20 years at an interest rate of 2.93%. And we'll delve into that a bit more once we get to that staff report this evening. The easements, all 3 easements have been signed and agreed upon. The deeds have been sent over for proper filing, and escrow paperwork is in, ready for signatures, which we'll discuss this evening when that staff report is presented next as well. So we'll get into depth on that, answer any questions, and present those for the board for approval for signatures as well. The construction updates, staff notified Specialty Construction as soon as on the next day when the project was awarded. Staff assigned the award contract documentation, and we're waiting for proper signatures, insurance to be returned, which we have the documents in our possession. We've reviewed them, we've provided feedback, so we're waiting final feedback on insurance requirements. At that time, staff will sign and send over the notice to proceed. And we're anticipating, based off of initial conversation with the project manager from Specialty Construction, they're anticipating getting out there the week of July 5th with getting equipment staged and possibly pipe out there and possibly putting the shovel in the ground on June 12th. It's a very tentative date that we have discussed with them, or July 12th, sorry about that, July 12th. And we've set up a pre-construction meeting for Tuesday, June 29th, and staff and Specialty Construction and district engineer will sit down at that pre-construction meeting, dive into a work schedule. They'll present a work schedule. That work schedule will be updated weekly by them, so we'll know where they are, what's been completed, what hasn't been completed, and what's anticipated to be on the next week. Yes, sir.
Will we be sending out a notice to the people on Horizon Drive for start date, tentative start dates and tentative mobilization and start work date?
Yes, sir. As I send out my monthly newsletters right after the board meeting, that'll be included in this monthly newsletter. We're excited to share that the anticipated start date is the week of July 12th.
On a personal note, are you going to put the first shovel in the ground?
I think Ms. Ivy should do it. I think Ms. Ivy should do it.
Yes.
I think we should bring her some flowers for what she's been through over the time.
Are we also going to get a notice as to whether or not we are going to be blocked to get in our drive? It's a cul-de-sac street, so during this construction, they're going to let us know dates we can get in and get out, whatever.
Yes, ma'am. What they'll do is they'll notify you the dates that they're working in front of your property. All access, ingress, and egress to your properties should remain throughout the project. So even though they'll be digging in front of your property, they will stop the project, probably put a plate down, allow you to enter and exit your property as well. That was included in the bid documents and the contract that they agreed on. Staff has also resubmitted proposals for construction management services with direction from the board to look at decreasing those original proposals that were submitted. What we did is we looked at the hours that were submitted in those initial ones. They varied. So what I did is I lowered the hours required for a construction manager to be on site, and I submitted a proposal for their quotes at a specific amount of hours. What I went with, and I'll discuss that as we get into that staff report later on as well.
Okay.
Engineering services, the district engineer was soliciting services for the soils engineering. Unfortunately, those did not arrive in time to be included in this packet, so those will be brought back. District engineer feels we have enough time to approve the soils engineering firm prior to needing their services.
Okay,
That concludes my Horizon Drive projects updates. Do I have any questions from the board?
now, any questions from the public? I think you covered it, so on to the next.
At this time, I'd like to excuse Mr. Clayton Tucko so that he can get his long drive home, and appreciate your help this month.
Thanks, Clayton.
See you next month. Thank you, Clayton. Okay, so we'll move on to the next item, acceptance of the easement deeds for the three properties, which are 3100 Horizon Drive, 3099 East Highway 246, and 3097 East Highway 246. The district is looking to approve to allow staff to sign the easement deeds and the paperwork necessary for those three properties. The district total for all three properties that were agreed on for the easements is $30,020, and that's the fees that we'll be paying, dividing up amongst the three easements.
Very good. So what I'm looking for now is a motion for the board to accept. Do we need a motion to accept them?
So the motion would be to
recommendation.
adopt resolution, and you'd read each one of those resolutions. So items 1 through 4. I'll read them real quick.
Yeah, because in the I always just cheat and go to the recommendation and read that. So this is a little more complicated. So
And that's
go
what it
ahead.
is. So the recommendation is to adopt resolution number 2106, accepting easement deed for 3100 Horizon Drive, Marilyn A. Larson for the attachment. Also adopt resolution number 2107, accepting easement deed for 3099 East Highway 246, Lin Nan Lee for the attachment. Adopt resolution number 2108, accepting easement deed for 3097 East Highway 246, Donald and Marilyn Larson for the attachment. Hart, I apologize, Donald and Marilyn Hart. And also authorize general manager to sign and complete all necessary escrow documents.
Okay, who would like to make that
I'll make
motion?
that motion as presented.
Okay, and do we have a second?
Yeah, I'll second it.
Director Van Pelt is second, is Wendy?
Okay, so we have a motion by Director Beard and a second by Director Van Pelt to adopt resolution number 2106, accepting easement deed for 3100 Horizon Drive, Marilyn A. Larson for adopt resolution 21-07, accepting easement deed for 3099 East Highway 246, Lin Lee Lamley. Adopt resolution number 21-08, accepting easement deed for 3097 East Highway 246, Donald and Marilyn Hart, and authorize the general manager to sign and complete all necessary escrow documents. We'll do a roll call vote. Director Redfern.
Aye.
Director Beard.
Aye.
Director Jones.
Aye.
Director D'Ambra.
Aye.
Director Van Pelt.
Aye.
Motion passes.
Very good. And now we will go to F, which is a review and to adopt resolution 2109 regarding expenditures and financing for the Horizon Drive Mainline Extension Project. And I'll turn that over to our manager, Jose Acosta.
Madam President, is there Mr. Bill Morton on the Zoom meeting? Has he checked into the Zoom meeting?
What was the name of the people?
Bill Morton.
Bill Morton is on the, yeah, he joined the near the beginning meeting.
Okay. So Bill, are you present?
Yes, I am. Can you hear me okay?
Yes, sir. Thank you very much for being here this evening.
Okay.
I'll go ahead and read the staff report. As I mentioned, Mr. Bill Morton is a representative for the company Municipal Finance Corporation, who will be providing, he's the segue to give the loans dispersed. So as I read the staff report, after I'm done, Mr. Bill Morton will assist in answering any questions that the board may have at that time. At the November 18, 2020 board meeting, the board directed staff are pursuing two funding options. One was the Clean Water State Revolving Fund. The second was through CSDA loan as well. Staff continued the application process for both loans. As experienced with the Clean Water State Revolving Fund, the board and staff realized that the fees that were being tacked on based off of new studies that they were requiring, new fees that were hidden fees, the board decided to not pursue that loan and go with the CSDA loan. So staff went in that direction and requested CSDA to present the term sheet, which was presented to the board at last month's meeting, approved by the board, and signed by general manager and returned to CSDA for approval. The CSDA loan option has been presented back with and has been provided to the district in good faith with the following items. The true interest cost for the installment sale agreement is 2.93%. The finance charge of the installment sale is 0. We don't pay any fees for the agreement. The net proceeds to be dispersed to the district is $1.3 million. And total payment, if the district does utilize the $1.3 million at 2.93%, would be $1.736317. The agreement must be signed and executed within 60 days of receipt for the funds to be dispersed. So attached is the resolution for the board to review, and has been reviewed by legal counsel with suggested changes, and I'll let Rick discuss the suggested changes he presented to Mr. Bill Morton, and Mr. Bill Morton to agree to those. Rick?
Yeah, I did have a chance to review the installment sale agreement for the financing before the meeting, and I had just a few suggested changes, which I sent to Bill Morton, and I heard back from him this afternoon indicating that the changes were fine. So if you've got the installment sale agreement, I can show you where those changes are. I can just tell you, basically, there's a reference to the districts, the facilities that are owned and operated by the district, including collection, treatment, and disposal facilities for wastewater. And since the district doesn't own and operate treatment and disposal facilities, the two places where the enterprise is referred to in that way would be revised, so that the enterprise that the financing relates to would just consist of collection facilities for wastewater. So that's not a big deal. I made some revisions to the notice provisions. It says that notice can be given by personal delivery, first class mail, or telecopier. And that telecopier is sort of an outdated term. I think actually is a trade name for the Xerox fax machine. And so I changed it to facsimile and added email transmission as a permissible way for giving notices, just to update that a little bit. And the only change of substance relates to the prepayment, what's called a prepayment premium, or it's a prepayment penalty. The agreement provides that there's a prepayment premium of 1% if the loan is prepaid after 10 years. It can't be prepaid during the first 10 years. And there were email communications with CSDA early on in the process where CSDA told the district that there wouldn't be a prepayment penalty. And so Mr. Morton agreed that that provision would be revised to state that prepayment of the loan is permitted without penalty. Did I state that correctly, Bill?
Yes, you did.
Okay. So there's just those few little changes to the agreement. And so the resolution can be approved, and the agreement that will be approved as part of that resolution will be as revised, as those revisions were discussed tonight.
Did you say that the prepayment penalty only applies for the first 10 and then it's waived, or is it then waived altogether?
It would be waived altogether.
Okay.
There wouldn't be a prepayment penalty.
Yeah, I remember that is what we discussed initially. So, okay. Any other questions, comments? Okay, so are we ready to look for a motion, or did you have some more to go over?
I'm concluding my report. If you have no questions for Mr. Bill Morton, and we'll move forward with adopting the resolution. I can read the motion if the board would like, if we're going in that direction. Okay, so the motion would be to approve resolution 2109, resolution of the board of directors of the San Ynez Community Services District approving installment sale financing arrangement, authorizing the execution and delivery of an installment sale agreement, and authorizing and directing certain actions in connection with the financing, acquisition, and construction of the Horizon Drive Mainline Extension Project, with the approved changes as presented this evening.
Do we have a motion?
I'll make that motion.
Director Beard made the motion. Do we have a second?
I'll make a second.
Wendy?
All right, so we have a motion by Director Beard, a second by Director Deambra to approve Resolution 21-09. Resolution of the Board of Directors of the San Ynez Community Services District approving installment sales financing arrangement, authorizing the execution and delivery of an installment sale agreement, and authorizing and directing certain actions in connection with the financing, acquisition, and construction on Horizon Drive Mainline Extension Project with approved changes as presented. We'll do a roll call vote. Director Redfern? Director Beard?
Aye.
Director Jones?
Aye.
Director Deambra?
Aye.
Director Van Pelt?
Aye.
Motion passes.
Okay, so at this time, thank you, Mr. Bill Morton, for coming to the meeting this evening. Appreciate you being in attendance, and we'll reach out to you shortly.
Thank you so
Thank
much.
you.
I look forward to finalizing the loan and, putting everything together for the district. So we'll be in touch.
Thank you, sir.
Okay, thank you so much. Bye-bye.
Bye. Okay, now we're going to go ahead and move on to 8G, which is review and approve agreement for construction management services for Horizon Drive Mainline Extension. So we're going to receive the staff report from our general manager, and then we will have comment on it.
So as directed by the board at last month's meeting, staff did resend out the bid for proposals for the services. At the meeting, the board did reject all 3 proposals submitted, and we resolicited the proposals for construction management services. Included in those, based off the feedback from the board, same services as originally requested. Hours submitted as follows is the way I adjusted it down to 20-hour. It's a 20-week project is what we're anticipating. I requested 12 hours per week, which would allow for a 4-hour possibly beginning of the week check-in, a midweek check-in, and an end week check-in, 4 hours at that point. So requested at 12 hours, so 240 hours is what we requested these proposals at. And we asked them to put a line item specifying cost for travel, printing, and other supplemental charges. And total charges for services inclusive on all the information to be included on the proposals as well. To work ensuring that staff involvement remains constant throughout the project, I requested the CM firm will ensure staff and firm representation conduct a Monday or a beginning of the week meeting that allows for them to review the punch list for the week, direct staff on what they should be looking for, what inspection staff can complete, and gives us a punch list and a direction on how to move forward with staff. I have discussed this with staff already that our involvement is going to be required a little more than initially anticipated, but it also allows them to grow, learn how to do construction management services, and allows us to have feet on the ground and a presence out throughout the project. I also asked that they provide a Friday or end of the week wrap up meeting with the staff. So that way, any reports, any pictures, anything that we've compiled gets sent over to the construction management firm for final preparation of the final document for the project. Possibly a midweek check-in or ability to check in throughout the week as needed, whether it's half-hour call, hour call, but allowing for a 12-hour work week for the firm. The 3 proposals submitted were as follows. We had Cannon Engineering who submitted their proposal for $37,200. We had Wallace Group submit their proposal for $42,388, and Kirk Construction Management came in at $37,000. So I
What
want
was Cannon?
Cannon was the high bid last. Cannon's our local, our district.
Right,
engineer.
but I thought you said 37 for them also.
37,200 for Cannon and 37,000 for Kirk.
Okay, so Kirk comes in $200 under.
Yes, ma'am. And so I do want to present the figures as they were presented at last month's meeting. Wallace hours were approximately 332 hours. Their fees vary between $145 to $185 per hour based on which staff was doing most of the work on that. And their majority of the work was presented at about $165 per hour. Cannon presented their presentation at about 412 hours, and their fees were between $98 and $172. Most of their fees were within the $140 range. Kerr Construction, his fees, his hours were about 392 hours submitted last time, and his fee is a flat fee of $150. Because he has low overhead and doesn't have that fluctuation in staff, he did come in at the cheapest rate this time, because we did provide a flat line amount of hours, and so each company had to submit based off of those flat line hours. So Kerr Construction is a one-man operation. From that discussion I've had with him, he does live locally outside of Bilton, so he does have a close presence to the project. So staff is requesting for board to provide direction on which firm to approve if the board decides to approve construction management services. Staff recommendation would be to continue on with Kerr Construction Management, as they have provided the lowest bid, and we're confident in their ability to perform the services. One note I do want to make is that any final approval of entering into a contract would be added as an amendment to the contract, as reviewed by legal counsel, stating that they are entering into a contract and all the legal information that's required to enter into this contract as well.
Before we discuss it as a board, I would like to ask if the public has any comments on what you're hearing. This is regarding hiring a project manager, and this is what we're spending.
Well, I think you're going to have a project manager there. I'm going to be on site. I'm going to be watching them. One thing I would like to say to the board is you've done a hell of a job in hiring this man right here.
Yes, absolutely.
He's courteous, he's respectful, and he's knowledgeable.
Good to hear.
Yeah, we appreciate
That
that.
is a
We like
blessing
him too.
to this board.
Yeah.
That's a real blessing to us. He's very respectful, and that goes a long way with me. And I think he's highly knowledgeable. And I think whatever he recommends would be a good choice in this area.
Thank you.
Thank you.
We have another public
Stay
comment. Yes, sir.
Yes, I'm David Kurtz from Post Construction Management. Just wanted to introduce myself and thank you for the opportunity to compete for the work and be here in case you have any questions. Thank you.
Okay, great.
Thank you.
And that leads to my question that I had, as Kerr is local,
Yes.
so there would not be the travel fees as with the other.
So what I did discuss with all three presentations after, I couldn't answer that question at that evening if their travel costs were inclusive, but all three of them did have their travel costs inclusive of their original bids, and they're as well inclusive of this bid.
Okay.
The other thing I did ask all three firms when they submitted their bid was, if the project doesn't take 20 weeks and it drops down to 14 weeks, would the cost be adjusted? And each firm said yes, based on the reasoning for the project being shortened, based off of the contractor finishing the project early because they moved in an efficient manner and everything went smoothly. That would be a reason for the cost to be reduced.
Okay.
Okay, and then I
That
also,
answers my- oh, good.
I wanted to open it up because I know we also talked and about why this cannot be an in-house job. So I'd like to pursue that a little bit. Any comments from any director about that? Why we need to hire an outside project manager? I know Miss Ivy is going to be keeping her eye on things. And I just,
Show up, I'm gonna call you.
yes. But I'm also just wondering if that is something that our staff is they don't have time, it's beyond the capability or the training that our staff has, because there is something that I've been watching for years that has bothered me, and I've got a little more insightful serving on this board, but the way everything is always contracted out, we have a great competent staff and we have a big staff for what it is that we do. And there is not time, it would take them away from their other duties. I'd like to hear more about that.
Are you looking for direct comment from staff?
Yes.
Okay, so what we listened to was direction from the board and realized that 12 hours a week from construction management should allow staff to still participate in this. We have 3 staff members that I can push out on the project, 4, including myself, as needed, and that would not spread them to a point where they could not respond or perform their normal duties as well. That's why it was adjusted at that.
So you're saying now it's doable?
Yes, now it is doable based off of reducing the hours and the manpower required.
Oh, you want to hear what I have to say?
I do.
I do. I want to hear what you think. You're very knowledgeable.
I think it would be really interesting to have, you know, a 5-day general, what they do for the 5 days that takes 4 men, because I was the only guy here before, and there is a treatment plant now. And I understand that takes 2 people. But what the other 2 guys are doing for 40 hours a week in the district, I would love to know. Because, yeah, there is some work, but I would love to know what they're filling it in doing.
And I'd be glad to present that
In
information.
a general thing, because I do believe that they're very capable of doing the inspections. I used to do it myself and still maintain the system here,
So why don't you do it?
because I am not an employee here.
Right, and that's what we're just trying to find out, and we know this gentleman's an expert.
Trying to bid for it.
I
And you need to
understand.
do his sales pitch and tell you why he is so important that you need to hire him.
Well, but he doesn't have knowledge of our staff and their duties and their capabilities. And that's just a question the board needs to know, because it's not a huge part of the job, but you know, it's 37 to 42,000 that we're tacking onto the job. And this is after our general manager was able to pare that down when he just had a full-time project manager coming. How much was that going to add?
About 60,000.
So the.
And that
highest bid
gets
was
passed
over
on to you.
60,000, yes. So
You are.
How much
I'm
were
trying to
the
get it cut out.
average
or
of
as
these
much as
3 compared to the
possible.
first 3?
The original
How much did we
project
save?
we saved
management was at
approximately
60.
$20,000.
Okay.
I'm sorry?
We saved approximately $20,000
By doing
on average
this,
by
yeah.
doing this. Now, I would be glad to discuss staff hours, what they're required to do, discuss their job description, and have staff compile a work week so we can present that for the board. We could do that at a later date, or if you wanted to come by the office, I could discuss that as well with each board member.
No, but it could be something in the manager's report at a future meeting. But just talking for tonight, this just seemed like an appropriate time for me to ask that. And I'm not trying to, if anything, I would say it's a compliment to the staff to think that they're able to handle this. But I've never been a project manager, so I don't know. This gentleman has a career in it, and he probably, not probably, you definitely would recognize things that I would not recognize. But I just thought this is a time to have the conversation.
I've done enough project management and I know enough construction management that I feel we should have a professional on site
Okay, well, with that
for
said.
part of the time.
Yes, and the part-time seems like a nice compromise there. And maybe this is a discussion that we can continue having. I think even last time we had it, to see if, you know, how we want to go as far as staff training, and when we hire new staff, what kind of things we're looking for. It's not a discussion for tonight, but I think you did a good job, and I appreciate that this gentleman is still interested in doing the job and was able to redo the bid. That takes time. Yes.
I'll just comment, I represent other public agencies, you know, some of them have 30 or 35 employees, and they generally hire a construction manager, even on relatively small projects. Part of it is whether or not there's the surplus time available for the staff to do it. The other is whether the staff has the particular expertise they can need to oversee a construction project. There's quite a few areas of compliance that you have to pay attention to, you know, prevailing wages and reporting and change orders and some of this stuff. And if it's not the kind of thing that the staff here would do on a day-to-day basis, so wouldn't necessarily have the familiarity or experience when those issues come up. So without that kind of expertise, you run the risk of getting into trouble with the project not going the way it's supposed to and things not being done properly. So I just offer that for your consideration.
No, and we understand that.
Isn't all that supposed to be spelled out and shown to us before the project starts by the contract? He's supposed to be showing that he pays prevailing wage on this job, and
all that's spelled out in the construction documents, all the requirements that the
Right.
contractor has to comply with, but it's a matter of overseeing the contractor as the project proceeds to make sure that those requirements continue to be complied with as the project goes along. I mean, there are inspections, but there's also all
So,
the
Mr.
details.
Kirk, you actually inspect his checks to see that he's paying prevailing wage every pay period,
Yes, we get the prevailing wage notice, yes, sir.
all right?
There's the other issue, the safety compliance that someone mentioned, and the OSHA compliance, and I would be surprised if your in-house folks have OSHA 30s or OSHA 10s, and it's a fairly stringent requirement. Other issues related to safety on the site, equipment moving around. One of the projects I was just on, one of the bidders here was on it. We were on UCSB, and we had to do a line across a mall, a very well-traveled mall and bike path, and the safety barricades and the setup and the manning of the safety, and in case of their homes, the setting of the trench plates and making sure that they're safe to get in and out. There's a lot of issues related to safety, and it's not just a matter of putting pipe in the ground. So I do it for a living, so I believe it's necessary, of course, but I'm not sure if that answers your question.
It does. Thank you.
Is there any other further discussion before we vote? So what we're looking for right now, and it's Mr. Kerr. Spell your last name for me.
Kerr.
Okay, Mr. Kerr's bid is the 37.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so what I'm looking for would be a motion to approve, accept the contract, approve proposal for construction management inspection services for Horizon Drive Mainline project, and
As submitted by Mr. Kirk.
as submitted by Mr. Kerr.
And I would say with the inclusion of an addendum, which would include our standard contract terms, the district standard contract terms.
Okay, so let's try that again. So I'm looking for a motion to approve the proposal for construction and management inspection services by Kerr. What is the name of your business?
Kerr Construction Management.
Kerr Construction Management for the Horizon Drive Mainline project, including
An addendum.
an addendum. Okay,
Or a standard contract.
yes, so standard contract
Our
addendum,
standard
yes.
addendum.
So would somebody like to make that motion?
I'll make that motion.
Director Van Pelt has made the motion. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
It's been seconded. Wendy?
All right, we have a motion by Director Van Pelt, a second by Director Redfern, to approve proposal for construction management and inspection services for the Horizon Drive Mainline Extension Project as submitted by Kerr Construction Management with the inclusion of the district standard addendum. We'll do a roll call vote. Director Redfern.
Aye.
Director Beard.
Aye.
Director Jones.
Aye.
Director Deambra.
Aye.
Director Van Pelt.
Aye.
Motion passes.
At this time, I'd like to thank, as Madam President already did, thank you for coming this evening, Mr. Kerr, and I'll be in contact with you shortly by the week's end, and we'll get you included.
We very much appreciate you reworking your bid. We like you coming in here, and it was very helpful to have you here to answer some of our questions. Thank you.
Thank you.
Stop by my house and I'll give you some coffee.
Get her caramels.
And some caramels.
Yeah, you gotta get a Carl.
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you again.
Thank
Thank
you.
you for showing up. Appreciate it.
And Ms. Ivy, when he's over there, he's got work to do, so.
But, I really appreciate everything that you've done, but from what I gathered from tonight is that we have a construction company that's shovel ready. We have a loan financing in place, and we have construction management in place. So the next thing I'd like to see, if we have all of those things, is what's the cost to us?
So that proposition was presented at last month's board meeting and approved by the board. I can send you over a copy or get you a copy.
Okay, great. Oh, that'd be wonderful.
Yes.
Thank you and welcome aboard.
Thank you, ma'am.
And thank you guys for coming. Of course, you're welcome to stay, but we're moving on from Horizon Drive.
I guess I'm gonna have to do something for you guys if this ever happens.
Well, you've kept this project
It's
moving
gonna
along.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, and our final action item here before we go into our closed session, we have an opportunity here to review, discuss, and vote on a SYCSD Coastal Network candidate. There are two people that we can choose one for us to vote for, or is this to
Yes.
endorse, to vote for, correct? Okay, so we had a chance to look at this. One person I don't know, one person I know of. I can't say that I know that person. But you know, I like Hugh Rafferty, but I don't know anything about the other person. And we don't have to vote for anyone, but if we as a board would like to vote for one of these two candidates, we can. Where's Pleasant Valley Recreation?
It's down south.
Okay, that was another thing I liked about Hugh Rafferty is he's in our neck of the woods.
Yeah, he's at the airport in Santa Maria.
Yes, and I like the airport at Santa Maria. I like the people there. So anyway, that's what I got, but I'm open to anything and I have no problem at all with the other gal. I just don't know her and didn't recognize her district.
Is this something we have to vote on?
If we choose to vote for one of these, we should vote.
Yeah.
So is it a two-step or should we, like, do we say, do we vote to vote and then vote on one? Or can we just opt to not do it if we're not going to do it?
You always have options when it comes to voting like this. You could ask for a motion and someone could make a motion to vote in favor of one of the candidates. And if that motion passes, you're done. If it doesn't, then you can see if there's a motion to vote in favor of the other candidate.
Well, I like that. Do we have a motion to vote for Hugh Rafferty?
You're making that motion?
No, I'm asking, because generally the chair doesn't make motions, but I can, and I'd be happy to. So I'll just do it that way. I make a motion that we vote for Hugh Rafferty to represent the CSDA board, Coastal Network. I make a motion that we vote for Hugh Rafferty to represent the Coastal Network. Is there a second?
And authorize district staff to vote for the selected candidate.
And authorize district staff to vote for the selected candidate. Is there a second?
He's a member of the Santa Barbara County Taxpayers Association. He's got my second.
Okay, so I've made the motion. Director DeAmbra has seconded it.
All right, so we
Wendy.
have a motion by Director Jones, a second by Director DeAmbra to vote for Hugh Rafferty for the CA, the Coastal Network, and authorize district staff to vote for the selected candidate. We'll do a roll call vote. Director Redfern,
Nope.
Director Beard,
Aye.
Director Jones,
Aye.
Director DeAmbra,
Aye.
Director Van Pelt,
Abstain.
Well, Mr. Rafferty was a little more controversial than I thought.
I just don't know. I can't vote for it.
Yeah, I just know of him, so, but I like keeping it local where I can, but so it passed,
the motion still passes.
yes. 3 in favor, 1 no, and to vote no, and help me here, Rick, but generally, how, if somebody is voting because they don't know them or just don't feel like it, is it a best practice to vote no or to abstain?
I think the better practice is to vote no.
Yes, I understand.
Well,
Abstention
explain
is
that,
very
sir.
specific.
Why would that be?
It's kind of complicated. There are all kinds of cases that talk about it.
Okay.
It has been a while since I've looked at the issue, but I did a memo on it a while ago, and that was the conclusion.
And I can give you my housewife version that I understood from my training, that when you abstain, it is for conflict of interest reasons only. And that if you vote no, you're just withholding approval. You're not saying the person's Yeah, but to abstain has very limited situations where it should be used.
It is appropriate to abstain if you have a conflict, and often it's required that you abstain if you have a conflict. But if you abstain because you don't want the item to pass, you can't say you're abdicating your duty as a director to vote, in favor or against something. And then it also complicates the counting of votes. Do you count that person as present for determining a vote? It works differently for different agencies depending on what their principal act says. But for reasons like that, there are some rather clear opinions that the preferred approach is to not abstain. If you're sitting there as a director, you should participate in the vote.
Can I retract mine? Here's the question.
No,
Can I
go ahead,
retract mine?
Director Van Pelt.
Okay. Well, I guess,
go ahead.
great question, but I was abstaining because, simply I don't know the individual, and I would have taken the same approach as Director Redfern did and simply said no. But I wasn't, I guess, say up to date on the differences between abstaining and saying no and voting no.
That's why I brought it up, because as a new board member, I had that same deal, and I abstained a few times, and somebody clarified it for me. And then since then, I've done a little bit of my own research to try and get a handle on it. But this is a learning opportunity. I don't think any of us are too deep in the board life. So I thought this was a time to hear from our attorney.
Yeah, and I would clarify where I say it's preferred to vote no rather than abstain. I don't think it's a big problem to abstain. I don't think there are any dire consequences. And sometimes, depending on various considerations, it might seem more appropriate. So I don't advise clients against abstaining. It's just that if I'm asked directly, which is preferable, I would say it's preferable to vote no.
Yes, and it's somebody that's still learning this whole process. You can tell I still have my training wheels on in certain parts of this. I think it's nice to take advantage of you being here. We can learn. Okay, so now we can move on. We're going to go into closed session next. So right now.
Informational items are not to present this evening. If the board would be willing to take a 2-minute recess, I can contact Nate Kowalski and get him on the phone and make sure he's available. He is available. I just text him, so he's ready.
Nate's actually on the Zoom right now.
Oh, is he? Now, do we want to do the closed session via Zoom as it's an open meeting also?
Yeah, so because you have a waiting room option, you can just not admit new people to the waiting room. They can't break into your meeting. And then that is not recording the meeting. The way that doing the recording is via a separate process. So we can just remove me from the meeting, and then you can keep using this equipment in this room where you talk to Nate and
Do we have anybody else?
The Zoom thing went off and it started, but the Zoom is operating remotely from where Jay is. My Zoom thing went crazy, so I just give it a steady neglect. Because I'm on the camera, the way Jay has it set up, it's still being recorded and it's still working for us. This computer is just working on updates 24%.
Oh, jeez.
It's okay. It didn't cause a breach in what we were doing or anything. So rather than a recess, can we, we'll do the recess, but we can go out of open session, correct? Should I ask for a motion to go out of open session?
Well, before we go into the closed session, we're going to take a couple of open session actions. One of them is to designate the labor negotiators. That has to be done in open session, and that's on the agenda as an open session item under labor negotiations. And then there also has to be an opportunity for public comment before you go.
Oh, I see. I was very anxious.
Yeah.
So, okay. So right now, before we go into closed session, to keep it easy, I'm looking for a motion to designate Director Redfern and myself, Director Jones, to be labor negotiators along with Nate Kowalski, who is our labor attorney. Well, we'll talk about the details of it, but our negotiating team, when I'm looking for a motion for Directors Redfern, Jones, and Attorney Nate Kowalski to be the negotiating team. Do I have that motion?
I'll make that motion.
Director Beard has made the motion. Do I have a second?
I'll make the
I have
second.
a second from Director Beard. Wendy?
Okay, so we have a motion by Director Beard and a second by Director D'Ambra to appoint Director Redfern, Director Jones, and Nate Kowalski, legal counsel, as the labor negotiator. We'll do
Okay.
a roll call vote. Director Redfern?
Aye.
Director Beard?
Aye.
Director Jones?
Aye.
Director D'Ambra?
Aye.
Director Van Pelt?
Aye.
Motion passes.
As we're getting ready to go into closed session, I will excuse myself. Wendy will step out as well. Do we want?
I would like Rick to stay. If he would like to stay, he could be helpful.
I'm happy to stay.
Okay, so it will be the board and Director Van Pelt is also on Zoom. So Nate and Director Van Pelt will both be on Zoom. So we are going to close. Do I need a motion to close our public session, or do we just say that
You need
it's closed?
to, public comments on closed session item agenda.
Oh.
You just need to, for the record.
There is no public here except for Jay. Is there anybody who would like to comment on this topic before we go into closed session? I see no one in the room, so we're going to close the public comment and then,
Going into closed session at 7:20.
yes, going into closed session at 7:22.